So, hover and active events. We're going to talk about these. I know I recommended it to myself, but it's actually a little bit of a hint. I had a few people ask me about them because I used them in an example once. So I wanted to make it very clear what it is. Now, what is a hover event? A hover event is a way to modify any element that you hover the mouse over. You can change the styling. They're actually called pseudo-classes, and it uses hover as an example, saying that a pseudo-class is a keyword added to a selector that specifies a special state of the selected elements. For example, hover can be used to select a button when a user pointer hover over the button, and this selected button then can be styled. So the idea is we have a styled button here, and when we have a new area here defined as button hover with the pseudo-class hover, we are able to style it whenever the mouse is over it. In this case, I'm making it so the border is bigger. We can see in the original it's 1, and I change it to 3 pixels. I wanted to make this obvious that I'm changing a particular property. So now you can see every time my mouse hovers over the button, we get that nice change in state, essentially. Now, I want it to be clear that if I were to remove all of the styling I did on the body, instead I just threw this in a container and let the container scale as it wants to, by adding more border, it changes the size. You can see it growing a little bit because it has to make room for the border. So, take note of that if you use it. Use Flexbox if you're going to be doing that kind of stuff, and make sure there's enough empty area inside of your container so that way when you hover, it won't modify the size of anything. Now, let's talk about active. Active is the exact opposite. So if I come down here and I do button active, which is a pseudo-class. Oops, I put a quote. Active, what that's going to do is the opposite. When it's activated, when the button is clicked, it'll change the styles. What I can do is we can do something like transform scale 1.1. I don't believe you guys have learned this, but this is pretty neat. It makes the border change, but when I click it, look, it gets bigger. See that? That's pretty neat. So active changes it when it's clicked. Hover changes it when you hover over. So you can probably make this work to your benefit. I can probably use this here. So that way it is scaled upwards when you hover, and then we can make it scale downward instead when we click it. So it gets bigger. I click it. It's smaller than the default. When I'm holding down click, if I get away from it, it goes to normal size. Bigger, smaller. Real active buttons. I love it.